Okay, so I know I said I was going to do a live video this evening, and it really was my intention. Um, I just had a situation today, and I know this is part of it. Um, Now that voter pamphlets are out, and I mean, one of the things that I don't know, I feel like I was trying to do different is like just being accessible to people to have conversations. And this morning I was greeted by a message. Um, I just forget how much hatred there is out there. Luckily, I have these two really cute dogs. Um, and how scary it is. You know, when I ran before I had gotten doxxed, and it's terrifying. And so the thought of doing a live video tonight, I'm just asking for some grace around it. I just figured I would do this video instead, and then post it, and then we can, if there's stuff in it, we can do comments. Just the idea of getting berated right now is too much for me to engage with right now. So I just ask for some grace. I will do a live video at some point. I do promise. But for now, I'm just going to do this video. And I promised that I was going to keep it to 15 minutes, and I'm already at 2 minutes. So let me just get right into it. I thank you for the feedback on that post about doing a live video. I think that there was quite a few things, so I'm going to try to get through all of them. But part of the issue, right, is that then also it turns into an hour-long video because I have so many words. So I think the number one thing that people want to hear about has to do with law enforcement and the sheriff. And to touch base on that right now, making sure that we have a fully funded sheriff's office is very important to me. But when I say that, that's also a little bit of a catch-22 in that I think that there's a responsible way to do it, and I want to make sure that it's not just falling on the taxpayer. And so a big part of that, right, is looking at the budget, going through the budgets. And I did have an opportunity to look through the last budget from, I believe, April. And then now they're getting ready to release one. I spoke with the sheriff's office because I've been trying to get a hold of it. And it's not available yet. She said it'll probably be available in a couple of weeks. So I can't really speak to it as much, except for I think the biggest part is to let people know that that is very high on my priority list. As a single woman, and I know I said this in my last forum, it's very funny to have to repeat yourself over and over because you don't know what people have heard, but as a single woman, I put a lot of faith in the fact that when I pick up the phone and call 911, that an officer is going to arrive. And I know that I'm in the city of Lacey, and we're talking more about the rural, unincorporated Thurston County, but that's something that I think everybody should experience. And I know right now that we are under, I use the word deputized, and I don't even think that it's a word, but I think you know what I'm saying. Like, we don't have enough deputies for our population. I've reached out again to try to figure out, and it doesn't sound like there's actually a standard that's available that people agree on. It's somewhere around, I know it's, the one thing that I read said it was 2.3 deputies per 10,000. Don't quote me on that. And essentially we have 0.3. So we are way under where we ideally should be. And so making sure that gets taken care of is obviously a priority. And I know that maybe for some people that would not be a priority. for me, safety is definitely a priority. So, and I think then there was also a question about this is a very funny thing, my beliefs around the Second Amendment. There's a lot of hot button topics that are out there that I don't mind discussing, but also the reality of it is the Board of County Commissioners, the chances that I would ever have to deal with something that is like a Second Amendment issue, I mean, the chances are just not good that that's ever going to happen at a county level. It's just not. I mean, as we all know, it should just be federal level. Now we've seen it drop down into the state level, so I guess that there is a chance. I don't think so. I've been sitting with it since I read that question, and I'm like, I just cannot imagine. I've never seen it happen before. So, but I don't mind, I don't mind sharing my belief around it. It is also, though, one of those things, it's very hard when you don't have a box, right? And you don't have a base, and you don't have, I have people that love and support me 1,000%, but they also know me, right? And so when it comes to the Democrats or the Republicans, I'm going to say stuff that's going to make each of those groups not like me, because that's just kind of part of where we're at right now, right? And if I had a base, then I wouldn't do that, right? If I had a Republican base, then I would pander to them. And I think that is part of what is wrong with politics. So I'm going to tell my story. And then here's the beauty of it. You guys get to decide what you take from it, right? So I promise you that I'm going to say something that you like, and I'm going to say something that you probably don't. When you leave this conversation, you get to decide which of those two things you give your energy to, right? And that's where I'm at in this whole run is, the thing this morning that I woke up to was essentially because of my pamphlet, which I wrote. I had no help professionally. A girlfriend of mine sent me a message this morning. She's like, so everybody's is pretty professional, and yours is definitely you, with a winky face. And I don't 100% know what that means, but I wrote it, and it 1,000% is who I am. Back to what I was saying. So, okay. So I'm going to tell my story. Years ago, I have always believed in common sense gun legislation. That was always my thing. And then a few years back, somebody who I love and honor and respect his opinion, he said to me, so would you ever support common sense abortion law? And I was like, no, I would never support any legislation around abortion. He's like, so you believe that a woman should be, so you would not support legislation that made abortion illegal at 9 months? And I was like, that's just such an over-emotional talking point that isn't going to happen. And no, never. It should always be between the woman and her doctor. And if you want to throw God in there too, you definitely can. That's how I look at it, is it's this woman's journey with her body and her experience. And so, and if something does happen, because it does happen, that they, like a DNC, if the fetus dies and the DNC needs to be, there are just situations that it's needed. And any sort of legislation, no. It is, and again, it's also such a slippery slope, because you start at 9 months, and then all of a sudden it's 7 months, then it's 5 months, and works its way down, and pretty soon it's illegal. And so to me, no way. In my opinion, no one should ever support any sort of legislation on my body. Ever. 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 So I know that my friends on the right are not going to love that answer, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But he says to me, that's how I feel about my gun rights. So what's happened with our gun rights is they've slowly, what started out like you can't own a tank, then you can't own, I'm making this part up, but you can't own a grenade, and you can't own, and I don't know. I mean, I don't really, luckily, again, at the county commissioner level, I don't feel like I'm ever going to have to legislate like tanks and grenades. I don't know if we should be able to own those. I don't trust my government at all anymore. So there's a part of me that's like, maybe we should. But there was something in that clicked for me, right? That it was like, oh, I see. So when I'm saying common sense, gun laws, and I'm thinking like, well, why do you need to have a magazine? I don't know gun terms, so this is probably mortifying for all of you guys. Why do you need a magazine that shoots 100 rounds in 30 seconds? Or you know what I mean? Like, but again, I'm not a gun person, so I don't know. You're not a woman, so you don't know. Well, maybe some of you are women and you still don't know. I don't know. Shit. So what I would tell you is, then the irony of it was it just happened to be a year that we were voting on something about guns. And I was so, after that conversation, I was so pulled. Like, it's something that all day long I would have supported had he and I not had that conversation. And a car pulled out in front of me, and their license plate said, "Vote like your rights depended on it." And I voted against it. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a peek into my views. And then, I should have started out with why I ran. The reason why I'm in this, I have such a love-hate of politics. I believe it's so broken. And I say that, and that's not true, right? I need to stop saying it's this well-oiled machine that's working just exactly how it was designed, right? The two-party system has kept us completely divided on these over-emotional talking points, and it's just messy. This morning, waking up to some message about how I'm not getting elected on this guy's watch, and for me to keep my religion, and I completely believe in the separation of church and state, period. Hard stop, is that what we say? So that's not even a thing to me. But just the way, like, this gentleman, because of my pamphlet, I feel like I was going to say this story earlier and I stopped, had me cornholed. Nope. Boxed in? I don't know. There's a pigeonholed? I don't know. There's a phrase. But he already had made up his mind about me. He doesn't know me. He's never had a conversation with me. Literally had just read the voters pamphlet and thought it was appropriate to send me these messages that weren't even based in any sort of reality, And I'm talking about why I ran, and that is the exact reason why I should not have ran. But I do. I have a love-hate with politics, and I've been pushing for 5 commissioners for years. Oh my gosh, I was going to keep this at 15 minutes. We're already at 14, so I'm going to wrap it up. But I've been waiting for 5 commissioners, and then I just watched who had filed, and while I think they're great humans, it's just not what I wanted for my county. I have witnessed, for me, right, land use is huge. Land use is what pushed me into this. That is why I'm running. Why I'm running is because I had a friend of mine whose house burnt down, and it took 2 years to rebuild a house where a house already was. And 1.5 years of that was fighting Thurston County over 17 different species of wildflowers. That's a real story. It took them 6 months to build the house. They fought with our county for 1.5 years after losing everything in a fire. And that's why I'm running, right? And then Also, you pull in affordable housing, which is a huge passion of mine. Huge passion. And for some reason, people can't correlate why affordable housing and land use are related. So the short, if that's true, answer is land use. Land use is what shoved me into this, because I looked at the people that were running and I didn't believe that my views and what's important to the people that I talked to was being represented in the people that were running. And there's a whole story along with it that I just don't want to even jump into. Oh my God. But I feel really confident about it. I mean, 1,000% confident in my ability to represent the people on the Board of County Commissioners. I think I align with both sides of the aisle. I feel like I'm very well balanced, and I think that that is super important on our board. And I'm at 16 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. I know that there was a couple other questions that I didn't get to, and I'll make another video. Or maybe I'll, no, because I don't want to commit to it. So, but I will definitely do another video about trans youth in rural areas. And that's going to, I mean, I guess I can make this video. So again, this is another, I think, to me, a hot button topic that the county commissioners, the chances of something come across the dais that this will even affect, that the county commissioners can control, the chances of that just are not probable. Could it happen? Absolutely. If it, and 1,000%, like, this is where it's tough for me, is I fund and support a home right now that has trans youth living in it. So for me, it is something that is close to my heart. In fact, there's a new, I'm not allowed to, but you know, that it's a house for youth who have experienced homelessness and the foster system or are at risk. And so it's just is something that like is very close and near and dear to my heart. And I feel like they should be supported and safe. And I feel like services need to be available to really dive into, I mean, again, this is what is so hard about running, right? Is that all it takes is me saying something that could be a soundbite that gets turned into something that it's not. And then I get messages that are awful. I get comments written about me. I get statuses written about me, you know, and it's so beautifully ironic because our government and our politics, my friend got me an F-bomb and I was just going to grab it, but it's too far away and I'm not going to. But they're the F word. I can't believe normally it sounds so stupid. Normally I just say it, but I'm trying to behave myself. They're messed up. And then we have these groups of people that like dox people and say awful things to people and call names and stick them in boxes they don't necessarily deserve to be in. And then we wonder why it's so fucked up. Oh, duh. $100. And that's why. It's because people don't want to deal with it. People don't want to campaign. People don't want to be in the arena. And usually the people that are the loudest about complaining are the ones that are doing this shit. It's so crazy. So it's funny to watch how terrified I am to even broach this subject. But what I will tell you is this. I think that it's very important to look at what is government's role in it and what is private role. Making sure that there are support systems in place. I do not believe that I do not support any form of child abuse at all, which includes if a child identifies as trans and they're getting abused by their parent, I believe there needs to be absolutely a safety net for those children. That safety net is not going to be provided by the county. It's going to be provided by the state because that's state law, right? County ordinances aren't going to touch this. And so it's very hard for me. I just keep talking. Now it's at 20 minutes. It's very hard for me because I didn't want to put this off, right? Because then that allows for a talking point to exist that's not true. And I also don't really have an answer for it. What I will tell you is my actions should speak loud, right? That I'm heavily involved in housing to make sure that when someone who identifies as trans, someone that is trans, needs a safe place and a safe house to be at, we have that. So I hope that's enough. If it's not, then you can leave me a comment and I will respond. But again, I think that it's just so important to keep our eye on like the stuff that the county commissioner actually does. So I hope that made sense. I hope that's the cutest dog you've ever seen. I hope you managed to get through this. Thank you for the grace and understanding on not doing the live video today. Have a good night.